Hello everyone, my name is Shivraj Mukherjee. My partners are Karthik Reddy Pagila, Michael Martin, and Xinyu Liu. And this is Team 5's voting application. For this voting application, we needed to have functionality for specific roles such as voter, auditor, and election official. Voters can log in, vote once, and see the result, and cannot vote more than once. Auditors can log in and see the results and audit. Election officials, or admins, can log in, add or remove auditors, and create ballots. Whenever a ballot is created, it is time limited, and during that time limit, changes to the ballot cannot be made, and voters are allowed to vote in that ballot. Votes and account passwords are encrypted or hashed, meaning database administrators cannot see these votes or account passwords. During the sprint one, we predominantly focused on setting up the front end and the back end. The front end consisted of a GUI created through JavaFX and had controllers which made the pages dynamic and changed scenes. The back end focused on interacting with the database. For sprint 2, we focused on connecting the front end to the back end.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'll talk to you about our system decomposition. We implemented a two-tier architecture with a graphical interface controlled by our front end through controllers that implemented button presses and tied into the backend Java file, which communicated to our backend package, which handled all of the interfacing with the database and logic. We had a third package, which was our entities package. This held voters and types of ballot issues that were useful classes to have both in the front end and the back end, and are used in both, that do not tie through, but are just entities that hold data. Our back end completely functions on its own using or connecting to the database, and the front end is just tied to that in order to pull and retrieve data from the database. This is implementing a facade architecture. Other architectural issues that we implemented were access control. So every user requires the appropriate credentials to be logged in and to view the scenes that are appropriate for that user. All of our data is persistent, and all that data is stored in SQL tables, and JDBC is used to access that data. Entities, this is that package, that third package that stores all the entity classes that support voting and results.
Hello, I'm Karthik, and I'm going to talk about the access control that we implemented in this voting application. So there are three different types of users. They are a voter, an auditor, and an admin or an election official. And each of them require proper types of credentials to get logged in. There are three different types of login pages for each kind of user. So the voter can only log in through the voter login page, and respectively for the other types of users. And each type of user is independent. That means a voter cannot log in with the admin credentials, or an admin cannot log in with the voter credentials. And the data in this application is persistent. We are using SQL tables to store all the data, and we use JDBC to add, remove, and get data in the database from the backend. A schema file is created which builds all the tables that are required to store the data, and a populate file is created which is used to pre-populate the data with a single auditor, a single user, and a single voter and a single admin, which will allow us to log in and create ballots or vote. And also a few fields are populated to allow the ballot creation and adding issues to that. This is the class diagram for our entities package. This basically has the classes that help in the creation of ballots and getting the results from the votes of the user or the whole election. This is the class diagram for our backend. This has the database utilities file which interacts with the backend, which it also has an encryption system which encrypts all the votes, and it has a hash util file which hashes all the account passwords to store in the database. And it also has a timer class which basically enables us to set activation times and ending times for the ballot. And this is the class diagram for the front end, which has all the classes and the controllers that are implemented in the front end, which allow the proper flow in the GUI. As for the implementation, we used two new libraries that weren't included in the pom.xml file. One of them is org.mybetas, which is used to create a script runner for running the schema.sql and the populate.sql file in the resource folder. And the other one is common codec, which is used in the encryption system to encrypt and decrypt the votes using the base 64. The interesting things in this voting application is a timer class, which is built to activate or deactivate ballots based on the start time and end time provided through the ballot creation. This basically takes our local time and checks if it is present in the range of start time and end time of the ballot, and it either activates or deactivates based on the information it receives. And there is also a randomized encryption system that is created for this application. The purpose of that is, if two people vote for the same person and the same string is passed to the encryption system, it will return a different kind of encryption for the same string on multiple instances. So if hello is passed 2 times to the encryption system, it will output 2 different kind of encrypted strings, so that when we store these encrypted votes on the database, any database handler cannot see which person has voted for which vote. As for the progress of this application, it is completed and all the requirements that are in the requirements station are working. For the experience report, we use test-driven development for this application. All the tests are done using JUnit, and test classes were separated by the class they were being tested. And for the code review, we placed all the code reviews that we have done in the pair programming folder. And we also met during the sprint to work as a pair and integrate the front end and the back end. For the extra credit with the JavaFX, we implemented a GUI using created through FXML files and the controller classes. All the pages are changed based on the buttons pressed by the users. And the controller utilizes a backend.java class, which is a facade class that implements all the methods from the backend. And now the demonstration will be given by Michael.
All right, I am back. Let's do a quick demonstration just on how to run our program. We will come to our database creator in order to pre-populate the database and have it set up correctly. We'll come here and run the database creator. This will output to our command line successfully created and populated fields. And running through JavaFX, we come to our home screen. You'll see here we can have a new voter, a registered voter, an auditor, or an admin. If we come in and try to log in as our pre-populated voter, we'll notice that there are no running ballots and we're asked to log in later. So let's create a ballot. Let's come in as an admin, log in with the credentials given in the README. We'll log in. You'll notice that an admin is able to create a new user. They are able to create a user which has an admin, auditor, or voter, requiring all fields. They are able to manage auditors. Knowing a auditor ID, they're able to delete that auditor, removing all access and instances of that auditor in the database. We are able to create a new ballot. So let's create a new ballot. Selecting our start time, we'll make sure it is a current running time. So we'll have just go from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and set it active today using our day picker, and we'll create the ballot. A ballot is now created in the database. It exists there, but with no issues attached. So we'll add an issue. So we'll add an election to our demo ballot, selecting it from our ballot, giving it a title.
Just to add to Michael what just said, a ballot, if you create a ballot with a time like for today, and you're still creating the ballot, it will not be active until you go back to the home page. So if you set a previous time for today, and you still want to add issues, as long as you don't go back to the home page, you can keep adding the issues. And once you go back to the home page, the ballot will be active and you will no longer be able to add the issues.
Correct. So we also, just filling this out, we select our ballot, the name of the election and candidate to add. Hitting add candidate adds the candidates to a list view. This is unique, and you cannot re-add a secondary candidate as it is a set. Once we go to add the election issue, this will push this into the database with the given list of candidates and an abstain. So that will give the uh, option for the voter to abstain from the or voting in that election. We can add another issue and add a proposition. We'll select the ballot and we'll give it a title. And a description. Clicking add proposition will add that proposition to that ballot. And let's add another election as well. There is no required number of candidates or limit on candidates for an election. So now we have added 2 elections and a proposition to the ballot. If we log out, we can create a new voter. Populating all of our fields, entering a unique voter ID with a unique password that I want to make sure I typed correctly. So we'll click our show password, and I have typed a unique password. Unselecting this box obscures the password once again. You'll notice you have 2 options to either complete the registration and vote or complete the registration and exit. Completing the registration and exit will populate the database with this user. Voter ID password will exist in the database, and you will just be taken back to the home screen. Completing the registration and going to vote will then use this password and voter ID to go in to the next page, which will bring us to the ballot that we just created. So we're asked to vote on the governor. We are automatically selected abstain. So if we just were to confirm the vote and continue, that would be a pass vote. Otherwise, let's select the Terminator as our governor and move on. We're now brought to the mayoral campaign. We'll hit Blinky, confirm and continue. We do say, did we enjoy this course? Of course, we're going to select yes. This brings us to the end of our ballot. At any time, we're able to void all of our votes and exit. Otherwise, if we confirm our vote and continue, that will confirm all of the votes we have selected and pass them to the database storing our votes. If we come in and register or come in and try to log in as that same user, we're not able to vote again. It will bring us to our who we voted for. So we can find out now that as that voter, I voted the Terminator for the governor, Blinky for the mayor, and I voted yes on Prop 361. Returning to our home screen, we can go ahead and enter as our other voter. So this is a different voter login. We're able to vote on this. So we'll also vote for the Terminator. We can vote for Pat Mann this time, and we'll select yes again. Confirming our vote, and we'll go to the continue. We can also come in and create a new voter who likes to abstain from votes. Give him a unique voter ID and password. And he will abstain and cast his ballot. Now I'm going to ask that one of my teammates goes in and actually modifies the database to close that ballot. Considering I don't want to wait until 5 p.m. for this video, it'd run a little long. So I'm going to pause the video at this time in order to do that. All right, now with our database modification to close the ballot, all we've done is just change the time to close on the ballot to something that is passed. Going to any login screen and returning to the home screen is going to update that in the database. Now, if we were to come in as our auditor and see who won the election, we're able to log in, and now the finished ballot will show up in our ballot selector. Selecting our demo ballot will display our results, also who we had as voters. So we have our ballot. We had 2 people vote for Terminator, 1 abstained, 0 voted for Miss Patman, 1 voted for Patman, 0 for Dot, 1 for Blinky. So the mayoral race should be a tie. Prop 361 was voted yes twice and abstained once. Displaying our winners, we have the Terminator, who won by majority. The mayoral race was a tie, and Prop 361 also won by majority. You'll notice that even though the mayoral candidate race had 2 votes for the abstain vote is not counted. That completes the demonstration, and I'll go back to the presentation.
Hi, I'm here. So for the reflection part, we have 3 main parts for what we went well. And the first one is good coordination and collaboration. And the second is simple object-oriented design. And the third one is front end and back end independence. And for what we did not go well, there are 2 main parts. The first part is for the git merging. There are some accidental git force push. And for the second part, the testing costs too much time. The database need pre-populated data to test database methods, and the testing for database related methods took a long time, like more than 80 seconds. And for what we learned from the lessons, we had high aspirations when it came to functional, wanted to add ability to add rating candidates. But the way the table queries were set up, it would have given the ability for a voter to add what would like related candidates to the ballot.
That ends our presentation as our Team 5 has completed our voting application, and we very much enjoyed this experience. Thank you.